Hello, my name's Galena, the fiance of Josh Lee McCollister, who was murdered on July 8th by Deunn Willis and robbed by Danielle Durand. Usually I say something that's really negative in these videos. I'm talking about the stalking, or I'm talking about the love of my life being shot over a free puppy. I mean, it's not a lot of good stuff. And it occurred to me maybe I should record something that's actually nice. You know, I said to Sandy, Mama, I'm glad that I did that video about Josh almost being murdered in Fort Bragg by a fentanyl overdose, because it gave me the opportunity to talk about how Josh would collect Narcan and how he would distribute it to the homeless in Fort Bragg, how he was doing that up in Humboldt County too. And she said, oh yeah, honey, he also did that, down here in Southern California. That's who he was as a person. He was the type of person who, after losing someone that he loved incredibly to a fentanyl overdose, he decided he was going to make the world a better place by maybe helping save someone else's life. Because you never know when you're handing out Narcan, is someone going to survive because you're doing that? It could be that Josh saved a half dozen lives with what he was doing. Could be. Wouldn't surprise me at all if somebody came forward with the story about, oh, they were going to die, or their friend was going to die, and Josh William McCollister had given out Narcan, and so they're alive. Wouldn't surprise me. Well, there was something else really positive about Josh. He was subjected to horrific sexual assault. I mean, the amount of hell that he went through when he was young in that regard is just astronomical. And he wanted to really take all that essay that he'd been subjected to a positive place. He wanted to not just be a human trafficking victim, he truly was a human trafficking survivor. One of the things that Josh loved to do, and he did this a lot, was teach women how to defend themselves. He was always trying to reach out to the homeless, make things better for the homeless. And whenever he would see a woman who was homeless, he'd try to do things for her so that she would be less likely to be subjected to sexual assault, because this is a real problem for homeless women. He would pass out things so women could defend themselves, like Josh loved knives. He actually made them, and he would make sure that homeless women, that they had something, and he would try to train them too. He befriended a lot of homeless women, and he would try to train them how to fight if someone, came along to put hands on them or try to rape them or something like that. He wanted as many women to know how to save themselves as possible. The first time I met Josh face to face, that very first day, he told me, I can train you how to fight back. And he was very sincere. He was completely sincere that he wanted to teach me how to fight. And it's one of the many things I regret, that I never let him teach me how, because he really wanted me to know how to fight back. Josh loved to talk about Colleen. He loved that woman to the ends of the earth. It was beautiful how devoted he was to her. He loved to talk about how he fell in love with her, what they do together, all the you know, his marriage was so sacred to him. You know, that's one of the things, the instigator, when he proposed marriage to Josh, I found out about that. I just thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world, because marriage was not casual with Josh. It was, again, I'll say that word, sacred. And, like, there's no way he was going to enter into a marriage of convenience. You know, his belief about marriage is if you have, it's forever, basically, and you have to fight like hell to preserve it. He meant those vows when he said them, till death do us part. And even after Colleen died, no, that was his girl, that was his wife. There was a story that he loved to say about, he told me this story so many times about Colleen, that you know, she was one of the women that he had taught to defend herself. And they were sparring one time, and Colleen punched Josh in the face. Punched him hard. He fell over, as he said, like a sack of potatoes. You know, practically knocked him out. And he was so proud of her. He just, he was so proud. He told me the story again and again. Did I tell you she can hit like a man? My wife could hit like a man. I've never been hit that hard. You know, she was amazing. That's my girl. You know, and maybe like a month later, say, did I tell you my wife could hit like a man? Yes, Josh, I've heard that before. He was so proud of her. He didn't want any woman to be vulnerable. That was really important to him. That after all the helplessness and horrific abuse he'd endured, he wanted to take his rapes, his sexual assaults, and use them to help make the world a better place. That's why when I asked him on that first day I met him, can you be a hero for missing and murdered girls? There was no way he was going to say no to that. I didn't know that at the time, but that was just who Josh was. He could not stand predators like that. He would have gone down fighting to his last breath against that kind of person. And he would have gone down making sure the people who were victims had the ability to not be victims again. I was so proud of him. You know, I was a very different person after I walked out of that coroner's office. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I can barely recognize myself. It's not just that my hair is chopped off and I'm always wearing black. I don't recognize myself in my eyes anymore. I'm just completely different than I was before. I was so beaten down all my life. I was so shy. I couldn't stand up for myself at all. Like, not at all. I was mousy. I could stand up maybe for other people. Not for myself, never. That's another reason why Josh was so protective of me, is he knew that I couldn't stick up for myself. And now it's just like I'm fighting every single day. Like even the stutter that I had a very bad stutter for years. It's one of the things that changed when I met Josh. When he moved into the house with me, it was like magic. My stutter it was gone. He took it away. I guess he just made me feel that safe. My anxiety just got so much better. Before we were in a relationship, I had terrible anxiety. Like, I could not sleep. He thought I had a pill problem. Like, maybe I was a closet addict, because he would see me take pills every night. And I laughed when I found out. I said, this is diphenhydramine. It's to help me sleep. And painkiller. It was, I'd had to take 2 ibuprofen every night because I was in so much pain. And then when I was in a relationship with him, I just realized one day I could sleep. I couldn't remember the last time I'd taken painkiller or diphenhydramine, because I felt so safe with him, because he was so protective. I know that wherever he is, he would be really happy to see that I finally learned to fight back. Yeah, that would make him happy, because he always loved to see a strong woman. Strong women, capable women, tough women. That's how we always described Colleen. She was brilliant. She was tough and capable. The things he always said, most men say their wife is beautiful. No. He always talked about how tough she was.